Bulletcast for life.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to a very special bonus episode of the Bulletcast. I'm your host, the Microphone Messiah. But you know, I never do it alone. My tag team partner, the Canadian Destroyer, is here. Brandon! We're on video, guys. Watch this on YouTube so you can see our luscious faces and our bald or somewhat balding heads.
Yep, had to shave it all off because of the quarantine. It was looking a little raggedy, but I think this is the first time we've done a video podcast in a long time. We used to do the pay-per-view once, but then we stopped doing that. You see, lovely backdrop here, a lot of bobbleheads, a lot of wrestling stuff, a lot of sports stuff. So you can see my room if you go on the YouTube and help a boy out.
Yeah, I see a nice CM Punk and Daniel Bryan plaque back there. I see a number 24, RIP to the Mamba. If you look at mine, you see a nice sketch of big match John Cena during the Chain Gang days as WWE champion and some StarCast autographs. But let's get into it. Jack of all trades asked us, what are our top 10 favorite wrestling matches of all time, with number 1 being what we might think is the greatest wrestling match of all time. So here we go. We've done this before, but I didn't want to dive into the archive, and I didn't want the people to just search through hours and hours upon hours of audio. So we're doing this. It's fresh, ladies and gentlemen, and it'll be here for all the time. So the way we're going to do this, I'll say my number 10, Brandon will say his, and then we're just going to keep it going like that. Do you have any honorable mentions, though, Brandon, before you hit your actual number 10?
I do not have any honorable mentions, but I kind of did not remember the last part of the emailer's question to say that the number 1 should be what we think is the best match of all time, because this is my personal because when you say favorite match, it's a much more personalized meaning for myself. If you say the greatest matches, then I can be a little bit objective and not take myself out of it, because there are a lot of matches on here that I was there in person for, which definitely will add to what I feel is my favorite match. But I don't really have any honorable mentions on my list, but Philip, if you have any, rattle them off.
All right, I guess it's my number 13, Bobby Roode versus James Storm for the TNA Championship, TNA 2011. That's the match where Roode smashes the beer bottle over Storm's head. I thought that was good stuff. 12, Beer Money versus Motor City Machine Guns, their best of 5 series in 2011 for the TNA Tag titles. That was some of the best tag wrestling I've seen in my life up until I started watching the Young Bucks. Alright, and then what do we have? Number 11, Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler, Bragging Rights 2010. Bryan's US champ, Ziggler's IC champ, 2 mid-card champions just going at it, tearing the house down. Alright, with that being said, let's round it off. Here we go. Let's start with number 10. Brandon, do you want to go first?
I mean, if you want me to go first, Philip, I will go first. So as I said earlier, a very personalized list for myself. I don't think anybody really would think about this match at all as a great match. I mean, it was a really good match back in its day, but I'm going to go No Mercy 2016, Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz, the IC title. If Dolph Ziggler loses, he has to leave the company forever. The last few years, I've never been that high on Ziggler, but before that, when, Ziggler was all hyped up and then the internet loved him, I think this time period, No Mercy 2016, taking place in Sacramento, California, was kind of the last point in time where I really had hope for Ziggler being something, and I thought this was a fantastic match. There's a lot of gimmickry involved, but I think it definitely did work out well. There's also a really good triple threat match that kicked off the show, because on this exact same day, there was a presidential debate with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So they put the main event in first to undercut the debate, because everyone knew that they weren't going to be watching the show.
I do remember that pay-per-view, and I was watching some clips of Ziggler Miz earlier, and I got to see the boy Baby Huey front row, so that was fun. All right, my number 10, 2015 TakeOver Brooklyn, the first ever one. Sasha versus Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship. At that point in time, and it's still one of the best women's matches I've seen to date. I was enthralled by it. I was mesmerized, and I remember that being one of my first wrestling highs. After the match was over, I was exhausted from the spectacle that I just saw, and you get to see all the horsewomen, Bayley, Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte hold up the floor in the middle of the ring after the spectacle that Bayley and Sasha put on.
Yeah, if I actually remembered to do some honorable mentions, I probably would have put that match up on there. That's probably my favorite women's match of all time. Legendary. Everyone talks about that match. I also liked the was it the last woman standing match that they had made Izzy cry. I'm always a fan of making children cry. Shout out Sasha Banks for that one. I only had one. Being the NXT guy, I only have one NXT match on my list. But going back and thinking about it, I probably should have put a lot more because there was a lot of fantastic NXT Takeover matches to choose from, and this is definitely one of them.
Absolutely. Brandon, what's your number 9?
My number 9. I know Philip isn't gonna like this one all this much. It's Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25. Now,
9!
before you yell at
9!
Before you yell at me,
I'm gonna have a heart attack.
This is my favorite matches. Now, I will, say that this is one of the greatest matches of all time. But when you say favorite, it's more of a personal list for myself. I was not watching wrestling at the time, so I don't have fond memories of when this match happened, where I was, and everything like that. Now, great match, fantastic match. I see it usually at least once a year, but I just feel as though if we're going to do favorites, I don't have a soft spot in my heart for it like a lot of the other matches on this list.
That's okay. I had a mini heart attack when you said that. It's fine.
I knew that was going to happen, so I was almost going to put it 10, but I knew if I put it 10, you might have just keeled over. We would have to stop the podcast.
Yeah, it just oh god, I have my life alert, so I'll be okay. All right, my number 9, Triple H versus Jeff Hardy versus Edge, the WWE Championship, Armageddon 2008, December 14th, 2008. I remember this fondly. I was such a Jeff Hardy head, cutting up my mom's socks and putting them on my arms and doing the dance and all that stuff. And I enjoyed the chase he had to the WWE Championship. I know a lot of people were in his way, Triple H when he was the champion, Edge, Vladimir Kozlov, all these guys, and then he finally won the big one. It was for all the people who have made mistakes and were quote-unquote screw-ups. You could say the ultimate screw-up in a way. Not to demean Jeff or anything, but, he reached the pinnacle of the business, and it was such a cool moment, man, and it still gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
To be honest, this was during the time where I wasn't watching wrestling, so I don't really know or have much to say about this match, but I'm going to have to go and check it out. Friend of the podcast, my co-host on Curveballs and Chair Shots, Dominic Hobson, big Jeff Hardy mark, so that's probably on his all-time favorite matches of all time. So, good pick. We got the Edge Randy Orton match coming up, which is supposed to be the greatest wrestling match of all time, and if it's anywhere near that match, I'll be very impressed. I'll just say that.
There we go. I need to have Dominic on the show so we can mark out about Jeffrey Nero Hardy.
Sure. Why not? You guys can have your little fun about Jeff Hardy. I'm more of the Matt Hardy type of guy.
Oh, yeah? There we go.
My number 8, my only takeover match on this show, my only NXT match on this list. I got Johnny Gargano.
Don't you mean number 9?
I did remember I did Taker and Michaels. You need a heart attack.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on. My number 8, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. There's a lot of matches to choose from. I picked my favorite to be TakeOver New Orleans 2018. I felt as though that this was a fantastic match, a story going into it. Obviously, I think at this point we're kind of tired of seeing Ciampa and Gargano, but this was, I believe, the first match they had together, or maybe the second match they really had against each other, and I just felt as though it was just fantastic. It was an unsanctioned match, so hard-hitting, hardcore, and Gargano getting the win in the end, good, the babyface getting the job done. I thought it was fantastic, and this was like at the height where I thought Gargano could be something, be the top guy, not only in NXT, but in WWE. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet. Still could happen, but I try to go back and find out what my favorite NXT match is, and I think looking through all of them, this one was my favorite.
There you go, man. I know Ciampa and Gargano, they've had a very interesting rivalry. Was that the last man standing where Ciampa barely stands up, and was that?
This was the unsanctioned match.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of matches to choose from between these two because it feels like the fight forever chant is pretty much for these guys because they seem to wrestle all the time. But I probably should have looked back and remembered. But when I looked at it, it said that Gargano beat Ciampa in the unsanctioned match. So I'm going to go with that one.
Okay, I feel it. All right, my number 8, Baron Corbin versus Chad Gable, King of the Ring final. I'm joking. That's not it. That's not it. It's Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13, 1997. The famous double turn. Austin becomes a babyface when he's lying in the sharpshooter, dripping, pooling in his own blood. The Canadian favorite, Bret Hart, now becomes a dastardly heel after he's turning against America. I mean, the story that those two guys told, they always worked well together, and we look at the history of it. That's what led Austin into the real babyface push that he was going to get after the King of the Ring in '96. It was really good-ish, man.
Yeah, absolutely love this match. I believe when we did the best WrestleMania matches of all time, this one made a pretty deep run, as it should have. Probably my favorite Stone Cold match of all time, just super hard-hitting. Stone Cold still technically a heel, Bret Hart still kind of technically a babyface, but as you said, the double turn, probably the best double turn of all time, the iconic shot of Stone Cold in the sharpshooter, dripping blood. We'll remember it forever. I need to get that shirt. But overall, very much enjoyed that match. And as I said, I probably should have had a lot more matches and put some in my honorable mentions. And that should have been one of them.
All right. What's your number 7?
Well, my number 7 is actually a match that happened this year. I know there might not be a lot of great matches to choose from, and this might be a lot of recency biased here, but I'm going to go with what I said is the greatest tag team match I have ever seen, and that'll be Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page taking on the Young Bucks from this year at Revolution. I thoroughly enjoyed this match, not only the work in the ring, but the story leading up to it, with Hangman kind of being distant from the Elite, kind of teaming with Kenny kind of reluctantly, and in the end, they get the job done. Fantastic work all the way around. And I still say, and I'm not going to say it's the greatest tag team match of all time because I don't know a lot of the 80s stuff and all that stuff. So I'm just going to say, for me personally, this was my favorite tag team match that I have ever seen. And I think at this point, the way we're looking with no fans in wrestling for the foreseeable future, I think this is, for me, the Stone Cold Lock best match of the year.
No, yeah, I do remember that fondly. I was at Jay from the Reels Podcast House, and it was bonkers, man. I mean, the Bucks, they always have a great work rate, and seeing Hangman and Omega going out with some of their best buds hitting hard for those AEW Tag Team Championships, that was really good. I'm very fond of that match. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is one of 3 Shawn Michaels matches on my list. Shawn Michaels versus the Nature Boy Ric Flair, WrestleMania 24, 2008. We all know the story. Vince came out and told Rick if he lost another match, it's over. And, Rick, I'll never retire, that whole thing. And then the whole lead up to it. I mean, Shawn calling Flair, your old yeller. I'm going to put you out. You're over to past your times. You're done. And, Rick being Rick, old yeller slapping Shawn. And then just the pageantry of it all. 2 guys who have nothing left to prove in this business going at it. And Shawn, even though he's a vet and the younger guy, Flair didn't really want him to call the match. And it took Flair about 15 minutes to get used to what was going on in there. And of course, the iconic moment, I'm sorry, I love you, kick to the face, 1, 2, 3. Ric Flair's WWE in-ring career is over.
Definitely one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. As I said, probably should have made it on my honorable mentions list, but wasn't watching wrestling at the time, so it doesn't really have a soft spot in my heart. But I can respect how great of a match this was, the storytelling leading up to it in the match itself, and the iconic moment at the end, kicking Ric Flair. Probably the greatest retirement match of all time, even though Ric Flair did not hold up his end of the bargain and he went over to that other company, TNA, and wrestled a few matches, but we're not going to talk about that. But overall, yeah, fantastic match. 2 guys, Ric Flair, past his prime, but still knowing the ins and outs and knowing kind of the shortcuts that he could do to get a really good match.
Absolutely, man. So what else you got?
Well, now we're getting into my number 6 match. I'm surprised we haven't really overlapped at all. I assume that Taker Michaels match from WrestleMania 25 will pop up a little bit later, but I have Undertaker and Triple H, WrestleMania 28, end of an era. Should have been end of an era. Perfect way to send off Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, all hugging at the end. So beautiful. But as we've said multiple times on the podcast, maybe the greatest kick out of all time. Super kick into the pedigree. Undertaker kicks out. Hell in a Cell. I mean, this match was better than it had any right to be. And this might be, a little higher up on my list. I mean, I put Taker Triple H over Taker Michaels. Obviously, it's because I was there, not there live, but I was watching it, on pay-per-view. So I think this is my favorite Taker WrestleMania match of all time. There's a lot to choose from. I also like the WrestleMania 26 one, but I will concede that the WrestleMania 25 match is better. So, yeah.
No, yeah, man, that probably is the greatest kick out of all time. I just rewatched the match back last week, and you still get that that little jump in your heart. I mean, that's the first time my heart actually stopped once. I mean, it was unbelievable. Had, like you said, it was better than it had any right to be. Those guys that late in their careers, just going at it, swinging chairs, sledgehammers. Sean, just probably the best performer in the match for the way he drew the emotion of his best friend and his greatest rival going at it, to potentially end something that he couldn't do 2 years prior. So that was that was awesome. All right, my number 6, Brandon. We were in attendance for it. Do you know? Do you?
Would it be something that happened in Las Vegas?
It is Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes, brother versus brother, Natural versus Nightmare, All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing 1, May 25th, 2019. I mean, it was a love letter to their father. It was super special. At the point when they're both in the ring before they even touch, and we're chanting Cody, Dustin, and Dusty. I'm looking around in the garden, and I'm like, oh my god, this is cool. And they won the Pro Wrestling Illustrated award for Match of the Year that year. Big Dave gave it 5 stars. I'll finally agree with Dave Meltzer on something. It was super special, Dustin bleeding like a stuffed pig. There's blood all over the canvas, blood all over Cody. And then at the end where, they hug and it's the brotherly embrace. It was the cherry on top.
Yeah, I love this match. It is on my list a little bit later, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but the atmosphere, the match itself, the work rate was fantastic. Dustin, someone that we haven't seen a whole lot from in WWE, still showing that he has it. Now we're in the top 5. My number 5 match that I have is Cena versus CM Punk, Money in the Bank 2011. Now, I love this match. I didn't see it live. This was back in the day when I just returned back from wrestling, but I wasn't watching the pay-per-views. But I have a soft spot in my heart for CM Punk, so I have to get at least one Punk match on this list, and I think this is the one that everyone thinks of. Fantastic match. They go forever, like a half hour. The story of CM Punk not signing with the company, the whole work shoot aspect of it, of is he really signed, is he not signed, and then he wins the title in Chicago. Place goes crazy. Give Vince the kiss goodbye. Runs up the stairs and puts his title in the refrigerator after a fantastic match with John Cena.
Yeah, the whole title in the refrigerator. I've seen people do that since Punk's did that, kind of like an homage to him. I'm not going to get into it too much because that's on my list later as well. But it was goodish, pal, as Vinnie Mac would say. All right, my number 5. Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship, WrestleMania 19, 2003. I think WrestleMania 19 is the greatest Mania of all time. And this match, it was an absolute spectacle. 2 shoot wrestlers who were the best in their divisions at that caliber of athletics competing for the WWE Championship. It was a brawl. There was technical wrestling. And, of course, it's really known for the spot where Brock, a 280-pound man, tries to do a shooting star press. He's done it perfectly every other time, but this time there was a miscalculation, and he's completely concussed. And, Angle's neck is, basically hanging on by gum and tape at the time. And so knowing all the backstory of that match and to see these 2 men perform at that caliber, it was absolutely special.
Definitely love this match. Maybe an underrated WrestleMania main event. I know people will say WrestleMania 19 as a whole is a great show, but I don't know if this match gives as much love as it should compared to some of the Undertaker Shawn Michaels matches and the Undertaker Triple H matches and all the other stuff. But definitely love this match. A real technical classic, one might say. I mean, people know Brock Lesnar today being the guy who just shows up, does a couple moves, and leaves. But back in the day, definitely relied heavily on his amateur wrestling background, team that up with Kurt Angle. And those first however many minutes it was until the botched whatever shooting star press was fantastic, and they were able to recover nicely. I mean, if there's a lesser man than Brock Lesnar, that man probably would have died because Brock Lesnar has a neck of epic, godly proportions to hold up and didn't just crumble upon himself and perish in the middle of that ring. So they were able to get the job done at the end. It wasn't pretty, but they got it done.
Absolutely. What else you got, man?
Well, now we're going on to my number 4, and if I'm going to go with the best wrestling match of all time, which is what the emailer said, I might go with this one. I know Philip might not like it, but I'm going to go my only New Japan match that I have on my list. Kenny Omega, Okada, Wrestle Kingdom 11, the first one. The first one's always the best one. I think on my original list that we did a few years ago, I also had the 60-minute draw also, but I decided to take that one off. Love this match. Absolutely love it. I haven't seen it in quite a while. I probably should go back and watch this match out at New Japan. They're going to be holding a press conference later today about their future and when or if they're going to be running some shows this summer. But absolutely fantastic match. Kenny Omega being the Gaijin, winning the G1, the first ever Gaijin to win the G1, trying to take on the ace of New Japan. Okada doesn't get the job done, but the drama and a very long match, but I feel as though Kenny Omega, when he does these very long matches, they don't overstay their welcome. Such athleticism, such great storytelling. Fantastic match, and I think this would be my vote for the best wrestling match of all time. And I know it's kind of an unpopular / popular opinion, polarizing opinion, one might say, but very much enjoy this match.
Oh yeah, I mean it has its moments. I'm an Okada guy. I do like Kaz Okada. I think he does good work. If people are watching the video, I damn near croaked over out of my chair when he said this. But I mean, I didn't know who Kenny Omega was until I heard about this match. I'm not gonna lie. So it woke me up to see Kenny Omega, and he's done some good stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I think my days of actually just truly burying him maybe behind me. But Okada Omega, for those of you who are diehards for New Japan, I understand why you love it.
And I'm shocked I didn't put more New Japan matches on this list. I could have gone with some Will Ospreay matches, some Junior matches, some more Kenny Omega matches, some more Okada matches, but I only did one. So I only have one New Japan match, one NXT match, and the rest are WWE matches. So
wow.
Call me the corporate shill.
Hey, yeah, you might be more of a corporate shill than I am, and I'm wearing the Vince McMahon shirt. All right.
Actually, I do have 2 AEW matches on there, so only 6 WWE matches.
Okay.
Stand corrected.
Okay. All right. My number 4, Shawn Michaels versus the man that would go on to become Le Champion. No Mercy 2008, a ladder match for the Big Gold World Heavyweight Championship. So the story here was Jericho. It's in Jericho's Best of the World and What I Have No Idea book. His 3rd book. Please go buy it. The story here, Jericho and Shawn were only supposed to work one match, and they ended up working like 5 or 6 months together. Jericho punches Shawn's wife, and Jericho somehow gets his hands onto the World Championship. And so the culmination of all of this is for the world title in a match that Shawn Michaels made famous, the ladder match. It was simple, they're really using the ladder as a weapon instead of just trying to climb it. There was some nice wrestling in there, but it was really just a brawl. I mean, Jericho lost his teeth. It was fun, man. I really enjoyed this. Had to get a Jericho match on there.
I think I've maybe seen this match one time, as I've said, I think too many times on this show. I was not watching wrestling at the time when this match took place, but I've listened to Jericho's podcast. I've heard him talk about this feud, this match in particular, as being maybe the highlight, maybe the best work he's ever done in his career. And I got to agree with you. The match is really good. I would probably say you're probably going to have more Shawn Michaels matches on there. Chris Jericho matches, I think there might be a Jericho match or 2 better than this, but is your personal favorite list? I know these are 2 of your favorites. Combined them, it's going to be magic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is probably my favorite feud of all time. I can't say that, so I think that's why it made it on my list. Just the culmination of everything those 2 gentlemen did made it to my number 4 spot.
Now we move on to the top 3, and we got a match in common here. I got Double or Nothing last year. We were there. Cody versus Dustin. A fantastic match. Might have had a little buzzkey going on during this match, which might have made it a little bit more enjoyable. But this was kind of it all started when Cody did his entrance. He, bashes the throne, kind of the first real shot at WWE. And even before the show started, there was that kind of buzz about this is different. This is like a movement, It might be overstated about, what exactly AEW has done with the wrestling business thus far. But at that time, we didn't know what they were going to do. And you go Cody, Dustin. We all knew that this was kind of the match that had the most story going into it because of the brother dynamic. And then you get Dustin bleeding. The crowd was kind of 50-50, but then in the end, you'd think maybe the crowd would be more with Cody because he's kind of the lead guy in AEW. But no, they were chanting for Dustin. And I was cheering for Cody originally, but then I turned and went with Dustin. Cody ends up getting the victory in the end. And then, as you talked about the promo afterwards, Cody and Dustin hugging, embracing. I have a brother. I texted him. He's like, "Oh, I love you, man," because I was thinking that he was watching this at the same time. And then, of course, he was like 20 minutes behind. He had no idea what I was talking about, so I felt a little alone. But it's okay. 20 minutes later, he texted me back with crying emojis, and we virtually hugged via text message.
There you go. Almost forgot about the throne breaking. Yeah, Cody became the throne breaker. Yeah, it did feel like a movement. It felt like what they have always said, a revolution. And like you're in that arena, you're in the MGM, and you're like, I'm at a very big wrestling event, and it's not WWE. This feels different. It feels special. So absolutely, man. I dig it. I dig it. Here we go. My top 3. SummerSlam 2016, the phenomenal AJ Styles versus the franchise. Big match, John Cena. AJ's been one of my favorites for so long, and I finally got to the point where, I'm not going to boo Cena. I'm starting to respect the career trajectory of a big match, John. And they went, I think, about 40 minutes or damn near close, and it was awesome, kicking out of Styles clashes, getting out of the calf crusher, STFs. Styles, when he kicked out of that Avalanche AA, I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna keep going. They're going deep in the water with this thing. And then Styles clash, phenomenal forearm, 1, 2, 3, beat him clean in the middle of the ring. No Gallows and Anderson, no interference, nothing. Just two guys working so well together, and it was special, man.
To be honest, I don't really remember. I remember this being a really good match, but I can't exactly remember, what my feelings were on it at the time. I know we just did a watch along of the Royal Rumble match from a few years back, but this match, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm trying to kind of go back and remember, but as you kind of explained it, I do remember that this was a very good match. Don't have a lot to say on it, but these two guys, they didn't work a whole hell of a lot. As I said, they had that triple threat match in No Mercy 16. So when they did do some good stuff together.
All right, Brandon, we're hitting the bottom too.
Now, I said Omega Okada was probably the best match of all time or whatever, because these last 3 matches definitely have a more personal feeling for me of why I like these matches. Now, we've done Mount Rushmores, we did favorite matches of all time, and I think I've talked about this multiple times. Daniel Bryan, you can see him there in the background. Right there, there's Daniel winning the world title at WrestleMania 30. Daniel Bryan, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, so I got to put a Daniel Bryan match on here. John Cena, Daniel Bryan, SummerSlam 13, I believe, and I've talked about this all the time. We're not going to talk about the cash that happened after. We're just going to, in a bubble, the Cena-Bryan match. Loved it. Fantastic. This was kind of not the hype, but when I was kind of, that internet smarky fan of thinking oh, Cena's trash and he's going to bury Bryan and Bryan's not going to win. But then in the end, Bryan actually does get the job done. The debut of the running knee. I thought everything in this match worked spectacularly. We talked about we did the watch along for the AJ Styles John Cena match at Royal Rumble, where they didn't really leave the ring. And in this match, they barely really left the ring. They did some work outside, but they really, kept it in the ring. Technical classic. And I think, CM Punk and John Cena, that match is fantastic as well. I think a lot of people probably pick that match over this one. But personally, I just really enjoyed what these two guys were able to do at SummerSlam.
Yeah, no, our first watch-along, Brandon, was this match. I do remember that fondly. And then you immediately turned it off for reasons that we're not going to get into. I do remember this. I remember watching the pay-per-view live, and you were there, right?
I was not there. I was there for the next one when John Cena gets absolutely destroyed by Brock Lesnar.
That was interesting too. But yeah, no, I do remember this fondly. John got a nice shiner from the debuting running knee, so I do remember this. It was fun, man. Nice to see D-Bry reach the pinnacle of the business.
And the pinnacle of my list. Well, penultimate. He's number 2.
Penultimate. There you go. All right, number 2, CM Punk versus John Cena for the WWE Championship, Money in the Bank, Allstate Arena, 2011, Chicago. Punk, this is when he's still using the Fire Burns theme song for all you old school CM Punk fans. And John walks in. It was basically like when John walked into ECW One Night Stand against RVD. Like you could feel that riot if Cena wins we riot motion, because there were signs like that in the crowd. They went damn near 40 minutes too, I think. And you have John Laurinaitis coming out there, Cena punching him, and Cena's telling Vince, "Nope, we're doing this my way." Cena gets back in the ring. GTS 1, 2, 3. Special moment, and like you said, Punk blows a kiss to Vince goodbye with the WWE Championship. Like, and the work shoot element, it felt real. Like, oh my God, this guy's really leaving the company with the championship, and he goes and throws it in his fridge and comes back 2 weeks later.
I definitely understand why you would have this match so far up on the list. I mean, I didn't watch this match live, so that kind of downgraded a little bit for me, but I definitely love going back and not only watching the match, but I'll go on YouTube and they have a little clip of just CM Punk's entrance, and that's one of the most electric entrances of all time in the building. Just, the vacuum of the Rosemont Horizon, you got the CM Punk chants, you got This Fire Burns, a fantastic theme song, and just the energy. And, we said that, it felt like something different at AEW for Double or Nothing. There's something felt different for that Chicago crowd at Money in the Bank that year.
Absolutely. All right, Brandon, it's time for the number one.
So, as I said multiple times, this number one pick wasn't because I think it's the greatest match of all time. This is my favorite match of all time. I think Phillip might know where I'm going with this. WrestleMania 31. I was there in person. Probably I don't even know how to really explain the feeling I had at the end of this match, even at the beginning of this match.
I was about to say the multi-woman's Divas tag match? Was it?
Well, that is also up there very highly on my list, being a big AJ mark, being able to see the last 2 wrestling matches of AJ's career. I was very happy that I was there for it. But no, I will go with Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, apostrophe, whatever, with Seth Rollins cash-in combined in after that. I love the energy that was just filling the arena. Roman Reigns does his entrance, walked by me, might have said some very mean things to Roman Reigns, and I will not repeat on this podcast. But the match itself, I think everyone obviously remembers the cash-in that Seth did at the end, which was fantastic. Phillip talks about the wrestling high. I not really want to talk about it like that, but I mean, that might be the greatest, feeling I've ever had live watching a wrestling event. But people forget that Brock Roman match before the cash-in happened, it was a really good match, really hard hitting. It felt different. Brock, the news just came out that he re-signed with the company, so people had hope that maybe they could, Brock Lesnar would win. But we all kind of knew in the back of our minds that Roman Reigns was probably going to win. But then Seth Rollins comes out of nowhere. And looking back on it, I probably should have seen it coming. But Seth Rollins comes in with the cash-in. Fantastic overall match. My favorite match of all time for many personal reasons. But I will, concede that this isn't the best match of all time.
No, yeah, I do remember that. I remembered fondly. I was watching it in my dorm with my roommate and my friends. I should have been there, but I was held hostage in Texas. Anyway, the point being, before Seth comes and cashes in, it was really effing good, man. Hard hitting, Brock taking off the gloves, like, all right, you want to play F5 after F5? Roman's kicking out and he's laughing, and people say we knew Seth was going to cash in. I don't care. I don't care that we knew. It was still great. A cash in at WrestleMania that never happened before. So it was really fun, man. I love that. I do.
Yeah, and this was kind of the first matches where we had those Brock Lesnar spam the finishers, spam the suplexes. The invention of Suplex City was in this match. So it makes it novel because of what they were doing. And now we get Brock and they kind of just have the same match over and over and over again. And even then, this match went pretty long. It went like at least 15, 20 minutes before this cash-in even happened. So a very different Brock match than what we've been seeing these past 5 years. So I think this might be the best Roman match of all time, just the Brock and Roman aspect of it. And then throw in the Seth Rollins cash-in at WrestleMania. First time, only time ever. It's just perfect cocktail for a fantastic moment.
Absolutely, man. All right, it's the number one. I've said it to death on this show before. I know people are tired of hearing me say it, but I have to, man. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 25, 2009, Houston, Texas. was the first WrestleMania I ever bought, guys. That's why it holds such a special place in my heart. That's the first wrestling high. I'm 13 years old, sitting at my grandma's house on her couch, marking out. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. But I didn't care. It was something truly special for me. Shawn's my favorite of all time. Taker, he's not in my top 10 personally, but we know how great his career is, and he's the greatest character in the history of the business. It was hell, literally trying to get to heaven. Shawn descends from the rafters wearing all white. Taker comes up wearing all black as usual, and just like Marty Elias was on Talk is Jericho talking about giving behind the scenes of this match. And this is like one of the first times the dead man character really showed emotion. Shawn kicks out of a tombstone, and Taker's, the look on his face is like, what? Like, I can't believe it. And, he's like having a fit and stuff. But the finish, it hurts my soul. The moonsault off the top, it gets caught in the tombstone. And they practiced it all day. They couldn't get it. And then when it was showtime, they finally got it. And 1, 2, 3, 17-0.
Yeah, I pulled a little bit of a troll job putting this at number 9. But obviously a fantastic match. I mean, one of the best wrestling matches of all time, and as you kind of explained, it has a sentimental value as well, being the first first pay-per-view you ever watched. WrestleMania 20 was mine. That has a little soft spot in my heart. Obviously, the main event, and I look down upon it a little bit, but I mean,
who was in that main event?
I mean, there was Shawn Michaels and Triple H was in that main event,
and the Pegasus Kid, right?
Yeah, Pegasus Kid was in there as well. And then I think Pegasus Kid went over. I'm surprised. But I haven't seen the footage in a while. I'm surprised WWE didn't show that all that often.
Kid did well, and he went over. There you go.
But, I mean, a fantastic match. I mean, what more is there to say? It's been talked to death about the dead man. See what I did there? I'm so clever. But, I mean, wonderful match. I might argue that the 26 match might be better, but... More by me.
I don't think I've seen it since it happened. Yeah, I remember. I got my hands on the. I didn't see that one live, but I got my hands on the DVD, for a brief time, and yeah, I haven't seen it since 2010. 10 years.
So you're telling me someone who loves WrestleMania 25 so much that you've never gone back and watched the rematch?
The 26? No, I haven't. I haven't watched it in 10 years. Because of the outcome.
I feel it. Just like, Daniel Bryan beat John Cena at SummerSlam and nothing ever happened. He had a long title reign after that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Like, there are certain things that happen, ladies and gentlemen, that we just don't talk about. Like, The Fiend relinquished the Universal title. He never lost it. He just relinquished it, Stuff like that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's going to do it. Or do you have anything else, Brandon?
I mean, you brought up The Fiend for a little bit. When I was going through my matches, I was trying to go back and remember all the matches that I was there in person for. And, the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, whatever you call it, was definitely was not going to make this list because we were, at least for me, I was there for that lovely Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins and
that didn't happen.
Horrors, and the House of Horrors match with Randy Orton. That match happened as well?
Maybe we should do top 10 worst matches we've been in attendance for. That's different.
Reno Scum, all 10 of them.
Oh my God. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Brandon and myself. Hope you guys enjoyed us on video this time. We haven't done this since, I think, September, when we did Clash of the Champions, Night of Champions recap. That was the last time he and I did one of these bad boys. We'll try to do a couple more of these every now and again.
Get the view count up so it makes us want to do these more.
Exactly. Just check out all of our content that we have. Under the Radar will return eventually sometime in the future.
Maybe some breaking news, but if New Japan actually announces something big deal, I might be doing a podcast tomorrow. Under the Radar might return.
Oh my God. There we go. All right, guys, we may do a watch-along this week. I don't know. We'll have to find out. We're coming back together Thursday for our regular Bulletcast, and then Sunday we have to do a pay-per-view recap for Backlash because the greatest wrestling match of all time is going to happen there, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I think as though we did this list a week too early because next week we might have to come out and we might have to rank where this Edge Orton match ranks in our all-time favorite matches because it's got to be number one for both of us, right? So maybe we'll clip the recap and we'll edit it and throw it into this podcast later on.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that will do it for Brandon and myself. Stay clean, stay strong, stay safe, stay quarantined.
This has been the Bulletcast. Thank you for listening.